Good afternoon and welcome to Four Wheels and a Seat. I'm Alex Dalrymple and this is my channel where I review new cars every week. To make sure you don't miss an episode, please do hit the subscribe button down below, and if you enjoy the video, give me a like. Thank you very much. Today I'm, driving around a car park, as you can see, behind the wheel of the Nissan Juke, which, look, I have to say, I think in the previous model, was pretty much one of the most unattractive cars on the road. It was not a looker. This current version that's been on the road now for about 5 years or so actually looks a lot better. And, you know, I was a bit ambivalent going into this review. I wasn't sure I was going to like it, but damn it, this is actually a pretty good car. So this car's main rival would be the Toyota CHR, and from the outside and the interior as well, it feels just a little bit bigger and a bit more practical than that car, although it has been a few years since I've been behind the wheel of a CHR, admittedly. At the front, we've still got the two driving lights that sit up high on top of the bonnet and the two round headlights that now incorporate a kind of Y shape, which is really unique. I actually quite like this design. Side on, you can see that the car rides up reasonably high, giving you a good amount of ground clearance, although I'm not really sure you'd be taking this off-road, to be honest. It has a rounded sort of design all up, and just like the CHR, the rear door handles are hidden away at the tops of the back doors right next to the C-pillar. Back looks pretty good too. Under the tailgate is a 422 litre storage space, which you can expand by a further 900 litres with the headliner and up front and under the bonnet. I was a little bit surprised by what I found. There is a 3-cylinder 1 litre turbocharged petrol engine that outputs 84 kilowatts of power and 180 newton meters of torque, and that's actually pretty good. Fuel economy clocks in at 5.8 litres per 100 kilometres on a combined cycle. And power goes to the front wheels only via a 7-speed automatic transmission. Inside, and the Juke feels a little bit bigger and a bit more conservatively styled than its rival, the CHR. It's still sort of a little bit edgy and interesting, and there's a really good mix of materials. We've got soft touch up here on the dash with some stitching. Gets a bit harder as you move down, but that's kind of to be expected. And overall, it's quite a pleasant place to be. The center console screen is 8 inches. It runs the latest Nissan software. There's native navigation, digital radio, plus Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Although they're not wireless, you will need a USB-A cable to use those. 3 big round air vents across the middle here to heat or cool down the entire car. Just one single zone of climate control on this car. Very easy to use. A little tray there to keep your phone in, and little being the operative word, it barely fits my phone in. USB-A port, an external audio port as well, plus a 12-volt outlet. I like the way that the gear shifter here is kind of raised up here on its own little platform, lit up by LEDs underneath, these orange LEDs that are actually all through the cabin as well. Can't change the color of those, but it is just a nice little touch. The drive mode control here for the 3 drive modes of Eco, Normal and Sport. A couple of cup holders and quite a tiny center console bin. We've got a 7-inch screen here in front of the driver, surrounded by 2 analog dials. This screen looks pretty good. You can cycle through a few different displays. Personally, I like having the electronic speedo and the compass. Steering wheel has a nice feel to it. It's leather appointed, as is the gear shifter and the seats as well. This steering wheel has a nice flat bottom, feels kind of sporty, very easy to use. Paddle shifters on it too, because with 7 gears. Although this car, to be honest, doesn't really struggle with finding the right gear, but you can change them manually if you choose. The seats are pretty comfortable. They're leather appointed with PVC. There's no electric adjustment, but they are heated. And the seating position, yeah, nice and high. Good view out to the front of the car there. Can see pretty much right to the front corners of the bonnet. Good visibility all around, really. The dark headliner and dark plastics do make it a little bit sort of dark in here because there's no sunroof, but yeah, it's not too bad. This is actually a pretty good cabin. Wing mirrors are a good size, and we've got blind spot monitors in those as well. Is the Nissan Juke a turn-back car? A car so good looking you have to turn back and look at it after you parked it? Well, look, I think it looks really good in this shade of blue. As I said at the top, the previous Juke, I think, was one of the most unattractive cars of recent times. This version certainly does look better. Is it good enough to turn back and look at after you've parked it? It's not ugly, but it's not exactly eye-catching. So one of the interesting quirks I've discovered about this car in the week I've had it is it has a little bit of hesitation when you put your foot down. If you're taking off from the lights or pulling out of a parking space or entering a roundabout, you sort of go to hit the accelerator and it sort of slowly kind of spools up, and then suddenly, vroom, we're off and we're going. It takes a bit of getting used to, and once you're used to it, it's fine, but it is slightly disconcerting at first. There is also a little bit of torque steer, and you'll notice that when you're going around roundabouts, the steering wheel kind of wanting to pull back straight again if you're accelerating at the same time. So in terms of ride comfort though, the Juke is really good. It doesn't get upset by any bumps or potholes in the road. It's a very smooth, easy car to live with. And it's also nice and quiet in the cabin too, not a lot of noise coming from that 1 litre engine. And while 1 litre and 3 cylinders might not sound like very much, there's more than enough go. Really, for around town, you're just fine. Which does beg the question, is this car really an SUV or is it a hatchback that rides up high? Look, to be honest, you're really not going to be taking this car off-road. I actually took it up a steep driveway yesterday and it struggled to get up there. So if you want to ride up high and you like the hatchback form, then this is a good car for you. But if you're thinking about going off-road, probably best to look elsewhere. In terms of safety gear, there is blind spot monitors in the wing mirrors, adaptive cruise control, pedestrian recognition, taking off from the light, sign recognition. And the pedestrian recognition, I think it's actually the first time I've ever actually encountered a car using that, because a gentleman in high vis walked out onto the road. He saw me and he was sort of walking at a funny angle where he was getting as close to me as he could without actually crossing the road. But the car freaked out and thought that we were heading straight for him and slammed the brakes on. So good to know that this system works well. So the Nissan Juke still looks a little bit quirky, but it is a really good, efficient way to get yourself and your stuff and maybe your partner and one of your kids around in comfort. Yeah, you could probably do 2 in the back. There's a bit of room there. But is it really an SUV or is it a hatchback that rides up high? Either way, it's good value and certainly worth checking out.